Hey guys, Dr. Justin Marchegiani here. It's been a while. I got a live video coming your way. We're going to be diving in and we're going to be talking about silent reflux versus acid reflux and just give you my functional medicine perspective on the topic. Excited to be with you guys here. Love to see your comments down below. So feel free, write them. We'll be definitely responding. And if you need more support on the topic, there'll be a link where you can reach out to myself and my team. We're happy to work with you. We see patients all over the world. All right, guys, so let's dive in. I get this topic all the time, acid reflux, right? We have like two major kinds of reflux, right? We have acid reflux versus silent reflux. We can kind of call acid reflux GERD, essentially. So GERD essentially is you have the digestive contents of your stomach, chyme. So you have acids and enzymes, and that pH is going to be lower. Most people have that feeling of having that regurgitation, if you will, and that having that really sour, bitter taste in your mouth. That's going to be more on the GERD section. Typically with GERD, it's that lower esophageal sphincter in the stomach opens up. That acid comes up, creates that warmness typically here in the solar plexus, maybe even some burning, but it's typically dysfunction of that lower esophageal sphincter, right? That sphincter that opens up to the esophagus. Again, you can see it sometimes where it comes all the way up, but you typically don't see that. Usually it's the burning in that area. Then you have silent reflux or laryngopharynx reflux, LPR for short. And that's where both sphincters are failing. You have a lower esophageal sphincter, which is just like, it opens up like this. And then you have an upper esophageal sphincter. So now you have both open. And so that now the acid's going from the lower part where it creates that burning, but now it's hitting a lot of times that vocal cord, right? LPR, larynx, that's your vocal cord. So now it's coming up here. So the biggest difference I would say with a lot of these things is going to be the location, right? Where it's impacting you. So when you look at the biggest difference, lower esophageal sphincter, more in the throat, going to be higher up. GERD, typically, it's going to be that heartburn, that more of that solar plex, that deeper symptom, LPR, chronic cough, hoarseness, that throat clearing, where GERD may be that chest pain, that heartburn, and sometimes you can have that regurg. What's the driving factor? GERD, lower esophageal sphincter failure. With LPR or silent reflux, it's that upper esophageal sphincter difference. Again, with symptoms, GERD is going to have that burning. If it's chronic, you can develop ulcers. You can develop what's known as Barrett's esophagus, where that squamous tissue in that top of the stomach or the top of the esophagus, or the bottom of the esophagus, a squamous kind of flat tissue, it turns into columnar tissue. Think of like a callus, right? You play guitar, your fingers get really callousy, or you lift weights, you get the big calluses there. It's developing calluses, but that can be very inflammatory and create kind of dysplasia and eventually go to cancer if it continues to stay for too long. All right, so we have the big symptoms there, the silent symptoms, the LPR stuff. We're going to see it more on the coughing and just that soreness in the throat. Diagnosis. I mean, you can go, and a lot of times we can talk about the root cause of GERD, right? What's the root cause? A lot of times they're going to just use symptoms. They may actually just recommend an acid blocker, see how you do. If it's persistent and bad and like a lot of ulceration, maybe coughing up blood, they're definitely going to do an endoscopy, put a scope down you. May even do like a Heidelberg test where they look at pH. It's all possible. And then something like an LPR, they may run a pH test like a Heidelberg as well. And again, how do you treat it, right? On the functional medicine side, that's why we're here today, right? Because a lot of times the underlying causes of why it's happening, it's actually very similar. And so it's not really much different. You can have the exact same environment that's driving GERD versus LPR. It could be the exact same things, exact same foods, exact same stressors. And guess what? Someone may develop LPR, someone may develop GERD. Why? Because when inflammation happens, your body is going to break down differently, right? Why does someone get heart disease and someone get cancer, or someone get an autoimmune condition versus arthritis, right? Everyone has genetic weak links. And when that system is stressed with inflammation, with nutritional deficiencies, with infection, with poor gut function, the body is going to dysfunction and break down in different ways. And everyone wants to make each way and how someone dysfunctions and breaks down. They want to create a separate like protocol or a separate solution for each way, but really it's not. It's like if I take a rock and throw it down the hill, you could take a lot of different paths down, especially if there's a lot of ridges and nuance to the terrain. So it's the same thing with our health. Our health terrain is very different in that way. So the genetics are going to have a big factor. So one of the first things we see when we have LPR or GERD, guess what? Food's going to be an issue. inflammatory foods. Maybe it could be things that are pH driven. If the gut lining is really thin and already compromised, it could be like tomatoes and coffee and things like that. Could be they're more lower in pH, but it could be things like processed sugar and grains and flour and gluten and dairy. Those are all going to be highly likely. It could be if you're really raw, it could even be a lot of raw healthy vegetables, and FODMAPs could be an issue as well. That's definitely a problem too. Anything on the inflammatory side is going to be a big deal. Now, it could be, like I mentioned, pH. You may need acid. You may actually suffer from a lack of stomach acid. It's very possible. And so the problem is you actually need stomach acid in the gut to break down your food. You need HCl, hydrochloric acid, to tighten that lower and that upper esophageal sphincter. The problem is if you need that stomach acid, but your gut lining's raw and thin, you may not be able to handle it. And therefore that lower esophageal sphincter may stay open, and same with that upper esophageal sphincter. It may stay open as well, even though you need the acid. This is where it gets really tough because you need to bring a functional medicine doctor in to say, why can't I tolerate that acid? Now, typically there's infections, whether it's H. pylori or different types of bacterial or fungal overgrowths that are creating inflammation in that tissue. Or it could be just chronic stress, like your sympathetic nervous system, your adrenals are in overdrive, and that is creating all kinds of problems with digestion. The more your sympathetics are activated, blood is going towards the extremities to run, fight, and flee, and it's going away from the intestines. So you're not going to have the enzymes and the acids. And remember, enzymes are pH driven. So if we don't have good low acidity, we're not going to have good enzyme production. And if we don't have good acidity, when that chyme, which is all the mixed up food in our stomach, goes from our stomach to our small intestine, that's going to trigger bile production. If we don't have good bile production, now we can't break down fat. So you can see how this domino rally can easily get off the tracks pretty fast. So our first big thing is going to be food. Second thing is stress, sympathetic stress, physical, chemical, emotional stressors, sleep, overexercise, emotional stress that's unaddressed. Lack of acid, lack of enzymes, big things. But with acid, you got to be careful because you could have atrophic gastritis when your gut lining is very thin, and you may not be able to even handle it. That's a problem. So you really got to look at that deeper and get to the root. And then we may have to be adding in a lot of gut healing and soothing nutrients to work on that. Like I mentioned, whether it's LPR or GERD, you don't really treat it that differently. It's just easy to pick up GERD because, heartburn, warmness, pain here. But LPR can easily be hidden. It could be that chronic cough, that hoarseness, and those things could easily, be missed, if you will, right? And so that's important. And also with acid reflux, a lot of times that sphincter could be open and you can have acid when you lay down at night because the gravity is now, you're no longer not up and down and upright. Now you're going more horizontal. So it's easier for acid to make its way up. And so you're going to see with more GERD, you're going to have more of that issue when you're laying down as well. But LPR, you could too as well. But typically with the LPR, it's more of the upper esophageal sphincter. A lot of times the lower esophageal sphincter can still be pretty good in the LPR, so that acid won't come up from the stomach. But with the with actual GERD, it can. And so that's where getting like a microfiber pillow wedge that's 15 degrees can be helpful. Depending on your bed, you could put risers on the back legs and get it up 10, 15 degrees. That could help as well. But they have really good microfiber pillows that you can just sleep on 15 degrees. I do it with my kid when he has an ear infection. Like if he has extra sinus drainage, I'll put him up a little bit so then the ear can use gravity to kind of drain out. And you can do the same thing if you have any GERD as well. So good little tips there as well. And so really, when you look at this, there's a couple ways to look at it, right? If you have GERD or you have LPR, distinguish that. Get on a treatment plan. Figure out what the foods are. Figure out what the stressors are. Get your hormones tested. If you're chronically stressed and your nervous system has the sympathetics in overdrive that's impacting digestion, get that looked at. Get on a plan to address those underlying stressors. Get your gut looked at. If you have microbial imbalances, whether it's fungal overgrowth, bacteria, H. pylori, maybe even parasites, get that looked at as well. And then you need to be on a protocol that addresses the gut lining, the enzymes, the acids. You may not be able to handle any acids. You may need bitters or soothing nutrients or more enzymes instead. So work with a good functional medicine person. If you need help, again, the link down below. If you want to reach out to myself, my staff, we see patients worldwide. If you want testing, we do testing to kind of look at these things too. But you really want to get the physiology working better. Again, your conventional MD, God love them. They typically are going to write a prescription for an omeprazole or Prilosec or Nexium, and that's it. And there's studies on omeprazole and Prilosec causing kidney damage now. There's lawsuits out now. You can go check PubMed and the literature on that. So it's concerning because that doesn't really fix the underlying issue. Plus, you need good low acidity You need good low acidity to ionize minerals, which takes those minerals and makes them soluble so you can absorb it. You need good acids to break down protein, which are the building blocks for your neurotransmitters. You need acid to break down cholesterol. And so it may be helpful if you have a really bad acid issue or an ulcer, you may need some medical intervention. Or if you're bleeding, you may need an endoscopy to make sure there's nothing cancerous and make sure that's stable. But once that's done, you really want to look deeper on the functional medicine side because that's where we get to the root cause. We're not going to just throw you on an acid blocker for decades and ignore the reason why your physiology is not working optimally. So I hope that makes sense, guys. If it does, let me know down below. Hope you appreciate it. Again, trying to give you a couple of paths. Conventional medicine is important and can be helpful, but you have to know where it helps and where it doesn't. All right. Hope that makes sense, guys. I'll answer a couple of questions. If it does, please let me know down bottom. All right, guys. Appreciate it. Dr. J here. All right. A couple of questions for you guys. I have H. pylori and I have an ulcer. I'm suffering with it. Yeah, I mean, H. pylori, it's a helix shape, right? It's Helicobacter pylori. It will helix right into the gut lining and create inflammation. It will lower stomach acid. It produces an enzyme called urease, which will take the urea from your protein and it will create ammonia, which is a pH of 11. So it lowers the stomach acid, also makes a lot of CO2, so you could be bloated. And that's what they test on the urea breath test. They measure the excess CO2. I have CPTSD and I'm stressed out from life. Yeah, I mean, sympathetic nervous system stress is going to be a big deal. So, I mean, meditation, EMDR, EFT, pick some modalities that are going to work to address whatever emotional stress you have. You just focus on appreciation, focus on gratitude, focus on all the great things in your life. When you're stressed, it's really easy to get in that state where you're coming from your brainstem, you're coming from fight or flight and fear. And the easiest way to get out of that is just to get into an appreciation, gratitude state. That's really helpful. So yeah, if you're trying to treat this naturally and you're having a hard time, then the next step would be reaching out to a provider or practitioner. So if you need more help, you can put link down below. You guys can reach out to my staff and team. Someone in the chat's commenting on that. So if you need more support there, that's a good help for you guys out of the gate. Also, avoiding raw food can be really helpful. I mean, if your gut lining's really raw, I mean, if you take a little cat hair and you had a sunburn and you put it across your sunburn, it could make you jump, right? And so you may need to really avoid a lot of raw foods and a lot of roughage, even if it's something healthy like a good salad. It could be potentially a problem. So just be on the lookout for that. Be mindful of that, guys. All right, if you enjoyed it, let me know. Appreciate it, guys. Have a good day. Oh, one more question. Every time I take pills, it burns a bit. And the reason why I did try and blend HCl enzymes, did feel better. So if you take HCl, right, make sure you take it with food. Make sure there's food already down below. That's important. That way, when that capsule hits, it's on some food, it opens up, and it's going to be on top of that food. That's helpful. And maybe you have a couple of bites, maybe 25% into your meal, then have it. That way, it's in the mix of the food. I always recommend start with a teaspoon of vinegar in an ounce or two of water. If you do good with that, then you can go up to a tablespoon. Once you have a tablespoon of vinegar in there and you're good, then I would recommend adding HCl with pepsin. That's kind of my checklist. So if someone's on the fence, I'm like, check a teaspoon of vinegar, check a teaspoon of lemon or lime juice, see how you do. If you're good there, go up to a tablespoon. And then if you're doing good, great. Also, I didn't really talk about it yet, but avoid water with food. Now, couple ounces to get pills down is okay. Just do not hydrate, like meaning, hey, I'm going to try to drink 15, 20 ounces of water. No. A couple ounces is fine. If you're doing some vinegar, do it in like 2 ounces of water. It's fine. No problems there. Just don't be trying to like really gulp and hydrate a ton during a meal. Do that, 15 minutes before, 2 hours after. Takes about 90 minutes of food to go down from your stomach to your small intestine. Again, if you have gastroparesis, which is possible too, that food could take even longer. It could take 2-3 hours. And so give it at least 2 hours and try to do 15 minutes before. Also, I'll do my ginger tea with Manuka honey. Very helpful to kind of soothe that gut lining. Very good out of the gates.